You ever get that feeling? The one that sticks to your skin, cold and electric, like something is watching you, even when you're alone. Yeah, I used to think it was just anxiety too, until the night I learned better. It started about 5 years ago. I was between jobs, desperate, and renting a crumbling little house on Wren Road, out on the edge of town, tucked behind a bunch of choked, overgrown trees. You wouldn't find it unless you knew where to look. The landlord barely wanted to show it to me. He kept glancing over his shoulder, like he was expecting someone to show up and drag him away. But hey, rent was dirt cheap, and I was too broke to care. From the start, the house felt wrong. It wasn't just the usual old house stuff. The creaks, the drafts. No, this was deeper. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath when I walked through. I could almost hear it, this low, pulsing silence. Not just quiet, watching. First night there, I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in the attic. Heavy, slow. I told myself it was probably squirrels or something. That's what you tell yourself, right? You lie, because it's easier than the truth. But squirrels don't drag things across the floor. And they don't knock 3 times right over your head. The next morning, I found a little door behind a loose panel in the upstairs hallway. A crawl space I hadn't noticed before. When I pried it open, the smell hit me first. Sour and metallic like old blood. Inside it was packed with junk. Yellowed newspapers, broken toys, and dozens of black and white photos nailed to the wooden walls. Every photo was the same. A man standing at the edge of the woods behind the house. Same distance, same angle. Only in each one, he was a little closer. I should have left right then. Should have slammed that crawl space shut and burned the damn house down. But I didn't. I stared at those photos for a long time, heart hammering so loud I thought it might shake the walls down. The man in the pictures, I can still see him if I close my eyes. Tall, thin, face blurry, like it was just smudged out. But there was something about his posture, the way he stood, almost polite, almost patient, that froze the breath in my lungs. And he was closer in each picture. At first, barely noticeable. A few feet, then inches. By the last photo, he was almost at the camera, almost reaching out. I backed out of that crawl space and jammed the panel shut. Tried pretend it was nothing. Old photos. Some weirdo's art project. People do all kinds of creepy stuff, right? But the second night was worse. I woke up to the sound of someone whispering. Not words, just breathing wet and close, like someone was crouched by the bed. I bolted upright, swung my legs off the mattress, heart slamming against my ribs. And that's when I saw it. Footprints, wet footprints, leading from the door to the foot of my bed. Bare feet, too long, too narrow. I followed them with my eyes, and they just ended. No retreat back to the door, no trail out, like whoever had been standing there had just sunk straight into the floorboards. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I called the landlord, told him something was wrong. He got real quiet on the other end of the line, like he was trying to decide how much to tell me. Finally, he said, "You found the crawl space, didn't you?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Just, "Don't go digging any deeper," he said. "That house, it don't like being disturbed." Then he hung up. No explanation. Nothing. I should have packed my bags right then. Should have burned rubber out of there so fast the tires caught fire. But you ever have that kind of stubborn fear? Where leaving feels just as dangerous as staying. That day, the house felt different. Heavier, darker. The air smelled wrong, like rain on hot metal. Every shadow seemed thicker, stretched out into long, clawed fingers. I tried to distract myself, turned on the TV, played some music. But around 7 p.m., right when the sky was bleeding into twilight, the power cut out. Not a flicker, not a surge, just gone, like someone had ripped the cord out of the wall. I sat there in the dark, too scared to move, listening. At first, just the usual sounds, the settling of the house, the groan of a contracting in the cool night air. But then I heard it, the attic door creaking open. Cree. I held my breath, every muscle locked tight. Footsteps again, heavy, deliberate, coming down the attic stairs. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted the salt on my lips. The footsteps reached the top of the main staircase, paused. Then the knock came, 3 sharp raps, on the wall right beside me. Now, I need you to understand something. There was no wall on my right, only a window. When I finally worked up the courage to turn my head, I looked straight into the glass and saw a shape, tall, thin, blurry face, standing outside the window. Even though I was on the 2nd floor, it didn't move, just stood there, one hand pressed flat against the glass. And then it smiled, not with mouth. It didn't have a mouth, but the shape of the head shifted, almost like the suggestion of a smile, like it was pleased. I don't remember moving, but somehow I ended up in the bathroom, door locked, sitting in the bathtub, clutching a hammer. I stayed there all night, eyes wide open, waiting for sun. At dawn, everything felt normal again, at least as normal as it could. I packed a bag, only what I could carry. I didn't even bother telling the landlord I was leaving. Screw the lease. But when I went downstairs, something stopped me cold. The front door was wide open, and on the porch, laid out neatly like a gift, was a photo, fresh, still wet from the morning dew. It was a photo of me, asleep, last night, and standing over me, a hand almost touching my forehead, was the figure. I left everything behind, ran down the road barefoot, like a maniac, until I reached the main highway. Never went back. After that, I crashed on a friend's couch across town. Didn't tell them much. Just that there'd been issues with the house. How do you even explain something like that without sounding insane? For a while, I thought maybe it was over. Weeks passed. I started to breathe again. Sleep through the night without waking up in a cold sweat. Then the dream started. Always the same one. I'm standing in the woods behind the Wren Road house. It's dead quiet. No birds, no insects, just that thick, suffocating silence. And there's something moving in the trees, slow, careful, stalking me. I can't see it, but I know it's him, the tall man, getting closer. I always wake up gasping, heart clawing at my ribs like it wants to escape. The worst part? Sometimes when I wake up, my feet are dirty, like I've been walking around outside. After the 3rd night in a row, I broke down and did something stupid, something desperate. I went back to Wren Road, broad daylight, middle of the afternoon. I told myself it was safe. The house was still there, sagging in gray against the sky like a rotted tooth. The front door hung loose on its hinges, but it wasn't empty. A woman was sitting on the porch, old, pale, wearing a shapeless black dress that looked like it had been stitched out of funeral curtains. She was just watching me, eyes like cloudy marbles. I almost turned around, but she called out, "You've seen him, haven't you?" My blood ran cold. I didn't answer. Didn't have to. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. More like pity. "You can't just leave him," she said. "He gets inside you, like a sickness." I asked her who she was. She laughed, a dry, papery sound. "I'm what's left," she said, "of the last one." Turns out, the house on Wren Road has a history. A bad one, built in 1897 by a man named Elias Mott, a self-proclaimed spiritualist. Except he wasn't talking to spirits. Not exactly. Neighbors back then said they'd see lights in the woods at night, hear voices, livestock would vanish, children got sick. Mott claimed he was making contact, opening doors between this world and the next. But something else came through. Not ghosts, not demons, something worse. Something that wore faces like masks and fed on the living, fed on fear. When Mott finally disappeared, just gone one morning, like he'd stepped out of reality, the house sat empty for decades. But every few years, someone would move in, and every few years, someone else would vanish. The woman told me all this in a flat, tired voice, like she was just reciting facts she'd long since accepted. I asked her why the hell anyone would rent the place out if it was cursed. She just smiled again, sad and thin. "Because it's not the house," she whispered. "It's him, and he needs someone to carry him." Then she stood up, and I swear to you, she didn't so much walk away as fade, like mist under the sun. I blinked and she was gone. Driving away that day, I kept checking the rear view mirror, kept expecting to see something lurching up behind me, but the road stayed empty for a while, until I saw it about a mile out of town, a figure standing at the edge of the trees, not waving, not moving, just watching. I didn't slow down, didn't stop, but for one horrible second as I passed, the figure turned its head, and even though the face was still a blur, I could tell it was smiling. You'd think the story ends there, right? I did too, for a long time. Moved to a different town, changed my number, left no forwarding address. But last week, I woke up in the middle of the night, that same electric buzz in the air, same heavy, watching feeling. And there on my kitchen table was a photo, still wet, of me sleeping, and at the edge of the frame, a long, thin hand reaching out. After I found that photo, I did what any sane person would do. I packed a bag, got in my car, and drove. Didn't even lock the door behind me. I didn't have a plan. Didn't matter. Just needed to move. Fast. I drove for hours. Into the night. Into nowhere. Back roads, dirt roads, past abandoned gas stations, and empty fields where the stars look too close, too bright. But you can't outrun something that's already inside you. Around 2 a.m., somewhere deep in the hills, my car started to sputter, then die. No warning, no dashboard lights, just dead. I sat there gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers went numb, staring into the darkness, pressing up against the windshield. Nothing moved, no sound but my own breathing, until the radio crackled to life, full static. Then a voice, buried deep in the noise. "Let me in." I slammed my fist against the radio, turned the dial, ripped the whole unit out of the dashboard. Didn't matter. The voice wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from the back seat. I didn't turn around. Every hair on my body was standing on end. Sweat poured down my back like ice water. Slowly, fighting every primal instinct screaming at me not to, I checked the rear view mirror. Nothing. But the inside of the car was wrong. The air was thicker somehow, warping at the edges like heat off asphalt. I opened the door and bolted, ran into the fields, barefoot, shirt soaked with fear. I didn't care where I was going, just away. At some point, the ground changed, from dry grass to mud, thick, sucking. I stumbled forward, feet sinking deeper with every step. The moon overhead looked too big, too close, swollen like a rotten fruit. And then I saw it, standing in the middle of the field, tall, thin, no face, no features except a vague impression of a smile, stretching too wide across the blank canvas of its head. And something was hanging from its hands. Photos, hundreds of them, fluttering in the breeze like dead leaves. Each one showed me, sleeping, walking, eating, living my life. Moments I thought I'd been alone. Moments I'd been watched. Moments he'd been there, always there. I tried to scream, but it was like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. The figure took a step forward. I stumbled back, slipping in the mud. The ground gave way under me, and I realized too late that it wasn't just mud. It was a hole, a pit, a grave, already dug, already waiting. I clawed at the edges, but the earth was too soft, too loose. Above me, the figure stood at the edge, holding out one of the photos. The final one. It was me, lying in the pit, eyes closed, mouth open in a silent scream. I woke up just before I hit the bottom, slammed back into my body like someone had thrown me, lying on the side of a dirt road miles from my car. No sign of the field, no sign of the pit, no sign of him. But when I got up, brushing dirt and blood off my arms, I found something clenched tight in my hand. A photograph, old, yellowed, showing a man, tall, thin, standing just inside the tree line, waiting. I don't sleep much now. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. Footsteps, dragging, closer. And every morning when I wake up, there's a new photo waiting for me somewhere in the house. On the kitchen counter, on the bathroom sink, taped to the inside of my front door. The last one, the one I found this morning, wasn't of me. It was of my bedroom door. Open, just a crack, and something standing just on the other side, waiting.